This video is going to be an energy reading for tonight's new moon, July 14th, 2026. It's full of opportunity, full of growth and transformation, and full of evolution. It's a time that life will be demanding that you step it up, that you start to live and think and align your behavior and your habits and your life with the person you've already become and transformed into vibrationally. It's a time of moving forward in a good, mature way. It's a time of seizing the opportunities that life can now start giving you. It's a time to also change the way you look at life and to evolve the way you think about life and yourself. And the result is progress, transformation, and way more inner peace than you may have felt in a very long time. So it's a fantastic new moon. I'm so excited to get into it. What I'll do now is I'll break it down into 5 more specific digestible themes that you might be experiencing right now as we speak during tonight's new moon. Theme number 1, adjusting to higher frequencies. If you watch videos like this, you know that the planet and all of the people are going through a major transformation right now, a shift in consciousness, an elevation of the vibrational frequency of our reality, including us. And what's happening, as you probably already know, is your vibration is now raising faster than probably ever before in human history. And it's a good thing. It's allowing us to tap into higher consciousness, become more aware of our connection to spirit and each other, and many, many other blessings that I'm sure you have heard of. But the caveat is we must adjust ourselves, our lifestyle, our behavior, our diets, where we live, even sometimes the thought patterns that go on in our head. We will get to these sort of pivot points in our spiritual journey where all of a sudden something that was once tolerable all of a sudden no longer is. And it's time to make a change. And it can be kind of surprising if, for example, you've eaten the same lunch. That's me. I've eaten the same lunch for like the last year and a half. And all of a sudden, I know it's time to change. I know it's time to clean it up a little bit. Even though it was fine, it served me very well, it's weighing me down. Now, that's obviously a minor thing. You might have your own version of that, though, with something you're ingesting into your body. But it gets a bit more tricky when it involves a person or a career or a relationship or some type of ingrained thought pattern that you don't know how to shake. But nonetheless, this new moon will give you awareness of what's no longer serving you. Now, here's the thing that I've learned. Maybe you have experienced this as well. There's usually a bit of a time lag between my awareness of, oh, this food is no longer working. This thought pattern is no longer working. I can now see the trouble is causing me, but I don't immediately have a solution. I don't know what to do. I don't feel like I have the willpower maybe to transcend whatever it is. So what I've learned, however, is to be patient and to know that first step must be awareness. And it's okay if you don't yet know how, or you don't feel like it's possible for you to truly transcend the bad habit, to sever the relationship from the person, to change your career maybe, to change your living situation. These are big things. But what you'll notice is that the energy does not lie. You can tell when someone or something you're eating or thoughts you're having are just not in harmony. There's this experience of dissonance. And no matter how you rearrange the puzzle pieces or what you tell yourself about it, energetically, it just will not work. It will bring about nothing but clashes, problems, complications, stress. It's one of the maybe many sources of imbalance and unrest in your life that you're now aware of. And that is the caveat. That is the price we pay to elevate our frequency. Why do you think people that drink ayahuasca throw up a lot of the time? It's a purge. Ayahuasca is an example of, at least temporarily, raising your frequency very, very high. And then as this happens, it brings up to the surface anything that's not in harmony with this temporary elevated frequency. And we throw up, we go through a process, there's energy movement, there's healing, there's crying, there's different ways we do that, we adjust. Now, what's happening with you is more of a longer, prolonged version of that, involving every single facet of your life. Everything must slowly but surely be brought up to speed as you raise your frequency. And this new moon, if nothing else, it'll show you exactly the next area of focus for you so that you can continue progressing on this journey. The second theme, a very exciting one, another result of raising our frequency, I wrote down here, exciting new developments. You may experience these unexpected aha moments that literally light you up from within. It could be an idea. It could be something you never thought of before about your future, about some type of clarity, about something you've been tossing around in your mind, back and forth here and there over the several months. Nothing really quite felt like it. You might find that the stars indeed do align, and it's like you lock in. You say, oh, okay, this is it. This seed of an idea is exactly why all of this other stuff had to happen. Some of the challenges you may have experienced, some of the learning lessons, some of the unexpected twists of fate you found yourself contending with in like the recent maybe year that initially you didn't understand the purpose. All of a sudden, you might start to see that. And it can sometimes come all at once. And it's an exhilarating experience. I had this happen. I've been experiencing a lot of changes in my career, a lot of changes in my value system, a lot of the things that I once involved myself in that were very in alignment, all of a sudden weren't, but I didn't know why. I didn't know what was to come to replace it. Some of these involved my job, my career. So it was concerning when aspects of my career no longer resonated without having any idea of what was going to replace them, because of course they involve feeding my family. And anyway, I've been going through this for the last like year or so, and all of a sudden it was last Sunday, not yesterday, but last Sunday, I was sitting out here on this very porch with my wife, Pattie, and all of a sudden it was like, it was like one of those mind-blowing moments. And it was like this download, this huge jolt of creative energy of something I'm going to do. I'll talk about later on. That is so awesome and so exciting. It's such a fit, so ideal, so perfect, hitting on all the different notes, covering all the different bases, and satisfying all of my mind's concerns all at one time, making complete sense of everything that unfolded. So many sleepless nights and challenging, unexpected discoveries, dark nights of the soul, just feeling cut off, abandoned from the universe, not knowing why. All of it now, I can see in retrospect, as always is the case, it makes sense because it all had to kind of happen that way to give way, to make room for this new thing that is worth it. And you might have your own version of that. You might have your own exciting new development. And if so, what is it? Type it in the chat, declare it, put it out there. What is your new thing? What is your exciting idea for the future? And if you haven't gotten it yet, that's okay. Just know it can come. And when it comes sometimes all at one time. That was for me. I waited and waited and waited and waited for a very, very long time. And then all of a sudden, after like maybe almost a year of like enduring this uncertainty, it just, oh, that's it. Done. Let's do it. That kind of thing. But here's the kicker with that. There's some things I want to say to the people who relate with what I'm saying. What I've learned over the years is when you have a huge, exciting download, I'm going to do this. I'm going to open a retreat center. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to start a movement, whatever it is. A lot of times when we initially get that idea and we interpret it with our mind, which we always do, of course, it's usually off. It's usually not quite the thing. And this energy, the new energy represents not only these downloads, but also responding to them with patience and in a more mature, grounded way. You know, there's something that maybe you've gone through, but it's a pretty common thing when someone first has a spiritual awakening. When they first experience firsthand an altered state in a higher state of consciousness and a genuine connection with the divine, very often, at least at some point along the seeker's journey, the ego structure will misinterpret that as I am special. I am meant to lead. I am meant to elevate people. It's like, it's hard. It's a misinterpretation of the energy by the ego. And it's not good or bad. It's just kind of a natural thing. But that can also happen with creative ideas where you think you understand the meaning and your role and what you're going to do and how it's going to look. But many times you don't. And that's okay. So at this time, it's good to allow yourself some time to marinate on that idea. Maybe talk it out with a couple of close people in your life, if you have them, that can give you like honest, encouraging feedback. I wouldn't share this with just anybody. It's important to, on another level, to kind of like be mindful of who you share your dreams with, because some people aren't really taught how to hold a dream. But anyway, if you have people in your life to bounce it off of, this can be good to give you the clarity, allow you to look at it from different angles, so that when you go to build the thing, whatever it is, you can do so um, in a well-rounded, grounded way, so it lasts and it comes together in the best way. The third theme I wrote down: closing out old loops. There's another phenomena I'll discuss right now that happens to people who are awakening spiritually, who are along on this path, who resonate with videos like this, is after you have successfully healed or released something, a pattern, or maybe you've broken like a karmic cycle in your life, a sequencing of events that carry a similar emotional tone and similar consequence, and there's similar dynamics. You may have found that throughout your life, you've kind of found yourself playing them out with different people or different situations over and over and over again. And what can happen is, after you wake up spiritually, you start to kind of look at these things that repeat, these repeating cycles, from more of a bird's eye view, allowing you to see maybe something you haven't seen before. Maybe you can see the inner dynamics more carefully, and therefore, from a level of higher consciousness, you can break the cycle. You can see through it. You can sort of choose not to repeat it, and you move on from it. But what happens a lot of the times is, one more time, you will find yourself almost like creating the illusion that you regressed and you're going back into the cycle, and history is going to repeat itself. Same feelings, same dynamics, but it's not the same. Because don't forget, you changed. You already played this game before. You already know where this leads. And now you have a choice. You have a choice to what degree you engage, how you engage. And what you might find yourself doing is sort of catching yourself from assuming that it's going to be like last time. It doesn't have to be, because you've changed. Every moment is new, fresh, and you can meet it with way more presence, way more consciousness, and therefore have a way different outcome, even if there are some similarities that seem to be reminiscent of what used to happen. And it can sometimes be, I can understand why we do this, because if something has gone a certain way so many times, it's like natural to like assume. But don't discount the variable. The big variable here of the equation is you and your growth. And there does come a point where you do finally move on from the past, from past versions of yourself, past reactionary patterns, past consequently dynamics that manifest. There comes a point where you don't have to do that anymore. Now is one of those points. But a lot of times, the way you know you've reached that point isn't because it just stops happening. It's because it could happen, but you've changed. So naturally you adjust yourself, and then it kind of just comes and goes, and you keep going forward in a good way. I fear that I didn't explain that very well. I'm going to give an example. It's happened to me. So just real quick backstory. My friend Aaron Dowdy and my wife, we've run and organized ayahuasca retreats in Costa Rica 12 times. We've run 12 retreats in Costa Rica, and my wife and I have run like 4 on our own before that. So close to 20 retreats we've run. And they've always had this interesting combination of stuff. One of them is like one of the most amazing, rewarding, beautiful, divine things we've ever had the blessing of being connected to. On the other hand, you're waiting for the but. The but, it's insanely stressful sometimes. We make like no money. It's very logistically challenging. There's always things that go wrong. And there's a lot of very intense interpersonal stuff that we have to constantly work out. Anybody who runs retreats or anything knows what I'm talking about. You got to keep like there's always like yeah, interpersonal kinks, you might say, to work out, where you have to keep communication flowing. You have to honor everybody. Everybody is involved. It's a whole dance, and it's not easy. And when we first got into this years ago, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. So consequently, we had a lot of sloppy, painful learning lessons, and we made a lot of mistakes and a lot of challenges that we repeated over and over again. And anyways, we took about a year off, about a year and a half off from running retreats, and we have one coming up in about a week. And just the other day, I received this text message, and it was like, it kind of reopened all of those old loops. It was something I had to kind of deal with, in Jamaica, they don't say problem, they say it's a situation. It was a situation, basically, that like sort of popped into my field. And at first, I was like, it brought back so much of the old like stress and concern and energy. And I was like, oh my God, maybe we're not supposed to be doing this. Why is this happening? And I started to sort of spin out, initially. And then I just kind of realized, you know what? I choose differently. I'm not doing that anymore. I don't actually even need to do that anymore, because this is a new retreat. This is a new moment. This is a new conversation. And I'm going to choose to elevate the situation and relate with it in a very different way, which is what I did. So I put the phone down, cleared myself, and I just knew in my soul, I had faith that it was going to work itself out. And sure enough, it did. Crisis averted, because I chose to respond instead of react, because I've grown, because I finally got the message. And so far, it's looking pretty good. So my point is, my friend, don't, make the mistake I've made many times in the past. When old things come back from the past, it doesn't mean that you've made a mistake. It sometimes is like the final exam from your higher self to really so you can experience the joy of walking up there and getting your diploma and saying, you know what? I've already passed this test. It's time to graduate. This other one might warrant a bit of an explanation as well. I wrote inner circle evolution. This has to do with your inner circle, like your immediate environment, usually involving people, family, maybe if you live with other people, even like your pets. It could be anybody you're close with, essentially. There are times for like spring cleaning between y'all, between all the different, what would Dolores Cannon? Dolores Cannon's this famous hypnotist, and she would run these QHHT hypnosis sessions, and I've been trained in these certification programs. And it's like a 4.5 hour journey of transformation. But the first 2.5 hours is the interview. And the purpose of the interview is to become aware of all the different things going on in the person's life. But the number one thing she like drilled into your head to become aware of is what she calls the key players. Who are the key characters of your life? Maybe you don't have close family, but maybe it's like your landlord, and maybe it's the people you see when you walk your dog. I don't know. You do more than me. But most people have, like, what are the most common people you interact with in your life? You might have unexpected discoveries about them, good or bad, that you have to deal with, you have to contend with, you have to adapt to. And it can be uncomfortable, but it's an evolution that's taking place so that you can continue to grow together in a good way. I'll give an example. one of the things I've been noticing lately is my tendency to be kind of like immature around my kids. Now, when my kids were like 8, 6, 3, something like that, like young, I could say any stupid thing and they would just they would just crack up. I'm realizing that my corny dad jokes no longer work, and now it's starting to kind of annoy them, I can honestly say. And I'm realizing if I want to continue staying close with my children who are getting older by the second, it seems sometimes, I have to evolve the way I relate with them. I have to give them more space. I have to be a bit more grounded. Before I could be kind of wacky and goofy and very like almost silly and like ungrounded around them. And it worked because they were little kids and it's like this fun thing, but now I'm realizing I have to kind of change. So I've been getting reflections of that. And it brings up stuff. It brings up sadness, like, oh my God, my kids are getting old. It brings up like, oh, I'm being this way. It's kind of a shameful way to be, to have to acknowledge I'm being kind of immature and is causing a rift in my relationships. It's like a big shiny mirror staring me in the face. Not comfortable, right? But it's giving me an opportunity. Okay, we'll get the message. Maybe it's time for you to grow up too a little bit, Vic. And I have been. And I've been seeing reflections of that. I've been feeling closer with my children. I've been being able to create new experiences with them because I've allowed myself to adjust. Now, sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's other people that you have to call out. That's also a very, it could work that way as well, where you discover something and you have to speak up. And then you give the other people a chance to kind of respond, and some do and some don't. But nonetheless, it's like as you grow, however it plays out, you will find yourself running into these opportunities for growth and expansion for the sake of continued harmony with those closest to you. That's the best way I'd put it. And finally, number 5 is very simple. Not easy, but simple. It's finding happiness. Like, think about that. Like, could you really imagine yourself finding happiness? How difficult is it to be happy given the present circumstances? Even a good life, people who have like a good life are distracted, are in a perpetual state of unrest. It's so hard to be happy with the world we live in constantly provoking us to act in ways that are not in our best interest, to act on impulse, to overconsume, to dazzle our senses, to indulge. Most of us have to work harder and longer than is natural in order to survive, to have enough money to survive. There are many things that make it very difficult to be happy, but it is possible. And what comes to mind is a beautiful poem by Tupac Shakur. It's called A Rose That Grew in the Concrete. Just think about that. A rose that grew from the concrete, something that should not happen. A beautiful expression of life. A rose. What a glorious expression of the power and like majestic qualities of nature and life itself, growing from concrete. But what a gorgeous motivator right there. Because that's exactly what you and I are being asked to do. How are we going to find happiness when I'm addicted to my smartphone? When I have to work so hard just to pay the bills? When I don't have enough time to meditate? I don't have enough time to do the yoga? I don't have enough time to live. I'm just going, working, hustling, surviving. And yet that's exactly what I think is the challenge being presented to us. And just like that rose, life has a way of adapting creatively. At first has to recognize there's a problem. Now, we've done that, I'm sure. There's many problems. But next, we have to trust that there are guiding forces that we don't always see, but are there. And if we are open to them, can provide creative solutions. You might be in a spot right now in your life where you feel trapped, you feel stuck, you don't see any way out, but doesn't mean there is no way out. That's the beautiful thing about elevating yourself the way you are, is that you start to access ideas. You start to access guidance. You start to access parts of your consciousness that have been like dormant or you've been unaware of. And it is these that can work wonders in your life. But it might take a lot of discipline. It might take sacrifice. It might require you to like detox yourself from some of these things that have been kind of holding you down. It might require you practice certain things that you have let go dormant. Like for me, for example, I'm realizing how horrible my focus is. I train martial arts almost every day, and twice a week I'll spar. I'll do kickboxing, Muay Thai sparring. This is where you try to like fight each other, but sort of like for pretend. It's not that hard, you know? But I noticed that the really, really good fighters are extremely like locked in. You can't blink one eye without them like noticing and punching you as a result. They're like a tiger stalking its prey. Their focus is very, very much developed. And mine is not. I'm realizing that. And I'm realizing my lack of focus is making it hard to be as productive as I'd want to be with work. It's making me hard to just have control over like just my life and my impulses. And anyway, so it's something I notice in my life that kind of sucks. So I'm working on it. I'm practicing now. I'm literally practicing doing things that like sharpen my focus, because that is what I believe will help me live a happier life. So my point is, that's what I'm trying to like imply here. Like, what could you do? Where are you? What is life reflecting to you that might be showing you where your area of focus could be, so that you could cultivate a greater capacity for this elusive happiness? And that's what I'm trying to say. And then acting upon that, but never giving up. Never giving up the possibility, never giving up hope. Always believe. Something we can all choose to do or not do. But for me, having faith and believing is possible, it's enough to get me through the hard times where I don't believe it's possible, where I don't think it's possible, where I don't know how it could be possible. It's like you hang on. And then life shows you, oh, there's this thing you haven't thought of. There are always opportunities. There are always solutions. There's always something. There's always a next step. There's always things you don't see. But if you give up, you're never going to see them. So don't give up, my friend. I'm not going to give up. And together, we can find a way to sort of hack the system and find happiness even in this crazy world. I believe it's possible, and I'm not going to give up. And I hope you don't either. So with that said, thank you for watching, my friends. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time. Peace.